Have you ever found yourself standing in the middle of a grocery store aisle, just completely staring at that massive wall of veggie gummies and green powders?
Oh, yeah. It is totally overwhelming.
Right. Like you're looking at these brightly colored labels and they're promising you the equivalent of, I don't know, 10 salads in a single tiny scoop.
That's a lot of marketing to sift through.
Exactly. And you can't help but wonder if you are just paying a crazy premium for like expensive, mildly fruit-flavored dust. So today our mission for this deep dive is to cut right through all that marketing noise.
Which is much needed, honestly.
Yeah, we're cracking open the lab reports on organic fruit and vegetable supplements to teach you how to evaluate quality, absorption, and safety like an actual industry insider. We're going to look at how these things are made and how you can verify what is actually inside the bottle.
And, it is genuinely difficult to separate the nutritional science from the branding when you're standing in that aisle. The packaging is literally designed to make you feel like you've discovered a shortcut to perfect health.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone wants a shortcut.
Right. But the foundational principle we have to establish right out of the gate, and this comes straight from our sources, is that these organic supplements are strictly designed to complement a diet. They're not a replacement for real food.
Right. I mean, I think people naturally want it to be a replacement because it's so much easier to swallow a capsule than to, prep and cook 5 different types of vegetables after a long day.
Oh, for sure. It's about convenience.
But, okay, let's unpack this. Think of a whole food diet like a massive complex symphony orchestra. You've got the strings, the brass, the percussion all working together. The fibers and bioactive compounds in a real piece of fruit interact with each other in this beautiful way.
I really like that analogy.
Thanks. So a supplement is more like bringing in a highly skilled solo instrument to play a very specific, targeted part that might just be missing from your overall performance.
The symphony analogy captures the limitation perfectly, because if you try to replace your diet entirely with powders, you completely miss the composite matrix of the plant.
The fiber, right.
Exactly. You miss the bulk fiber that feeds your gut microbiome. The proven health benefits of a varied diet come from those synergistic interactions. But, let's say you have dietary restrictions or you're traveling and just don't have access to fresh foods.
That's where the soloist steps in.
Right. That solo instrument becomes a highly effective tool for filling those gaps with a standardized dose.
Okay, so if we are using these solo instruments to bridge our nutritional gaps, the immediate question is how a manufacturer physically takes an entire farm's worth of organic kale and shrinks it down into a tiny capsule.
Without destroying it in the process.
Right, because not all powders are created equal. So let's talk about processing.
Processing is arguably the most critical factor in whether a supplement actually works. Manufacturers are constantly navigating this trade-off between stability, taste, cost, and ultimately bioavailability.
And bioavailability is just a fancy term for how much of this stuff actually makes it into your bloodstream, right?
Precisely. How much your body can actually use. So the 2 most common foundational methods you'll encounter are freeze-drying and spray-drying.
Let's pull apart freeze-drying first, because from the source guide, this seems to be like the gold standard for preserving a really broad spectrum of nutrients.
It is, mostly because it avoids exposing the plant matter to high heat.
But wait, how do you turn a wet, juicy berry into a dry powder without heating it up? That doesn't make sense.
So it relies on a process called sublimation. They freeze the raw plant material to a very low temperature, and then they place it in a vacuum chamber.
Okay.
And under that vacuum, the solid ice inside the plant converts directly into a gas. It completely bypasses the liquid phase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And because there is no high heat involved, you protect sensitive compounds, specifically heat labile vitamins, from oxidation.
Wait, heat labile, you just mean vitamins that get physically destroyed when their temperature gets too high, like vitamin C?
Exactly. Vitamin C, certain B vitamins, and a lot of delicate antioxidants are notoriously heat labile. So freeze-drying keeps their chemical structures intact, but there is a catch.
There's always a catch.
Always. Because freeze-drying is so gentle, the resulting powder is highly porous. It often retains a slightly higher moisture content than other methods.
Which means it can, clump up or go bad faster?
Right. If it isn't packaged perfectly, it requires extremely careful, hermetically sealed packaging, often with desiccants, to remain stable on the shelf.
Which I'm guessing makes it way more expensive.
Significantly more expensive, yeah. Both to produce and to package.
Okay, so on the other side of the spectrum, we have spray drying. And the sources point out that spray drying creates these incredibly stable, compact powders with excellent flowability,
Right, flowability meaning they don't clump.
which makes them perfect for precise dosing in capsules or like mixing instantly into a glass of water. But spray drying uses heat. So how much nutrient loss are we actually talking about here?
Well, to understand the loss, you have to look at the mechanism. In spray drying, the liquid vegetable or fruit juice is atomized, meaning it's turned into a very fine mist.
Oh, okay.
And then it's sprayed into a chamber filled with hot gas. The heat flash evaporates the moisture almost instantly, leaving behind just the fine powder.
So it's super fast.
Very fast. Because the exposure to heat is literally just a fraction of a second, the nutrient loss is surprisingly minimal for robust compounds. But, you will inevitably lose some of those delicate heat label vitamins we just talked about.
So as a manufacturer, you kind of have to choose between a highly preserved but fragile, expensive powder or a slightly less nutritious but highly stable, affordable powder.
Well, often they don't choose just one. Many high-quality modern products actually blend both formats.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, they might use freeze-dried berry extracts for the antioxidant profile, but mix them with a spray-dried base to achieve that perfect balance of stability.
That makes a lot of sense. But the most significant evolution in the market right now isn't just about turning the plant into a powder, right? It's about advanced processing to ensure your body can actually absorb it.
Yes, which brings us to fermentation and liposomal delivery.
This part of the source material is so fascinating to me because getting the nutrient into the capsule is only half the battle. If your digestive tract can't break it down, you are literally just flushing money away.
Exactly.
So let's look at liposomal delivery or phytosome complexes. What exactly is a phytosome?
So a phytosome is a specific type of liposomal technology tailored for plant extracts. Certain plant compounds, like polyphenols, which are the powerful antioxidants found in green tea or turmeric, are naturally very difficult for the human body to absorb.
Why is that?
Well, they are water-soluble, but they have trouble crossing the lipid or fat-based membranes of our intestinal cells. So they just bounce off, essentially.
Oh, okay.
To fix this, scientists bind these polyphenols to a phospholipid, which is a type of fat molecule.
So it's essentially an armored car. You're taking this tricky nutrient, locking it inside a protective sphere of fat so it can safely bypass the harsh stomach acids and drive straight to the bank, which is your bloodstream.
That is exactly the mechanism. By mimicking the structure of our own cell membranes, the armored car simply merges with the intestinal wall and delivers the payload directly.
That is brilliant.
It drastically increases the bioavailability of compounds that would otherwise just pass right through you.
And then there is fermentation, which is a completely different approach. Instead of an armored car, fermentation feels more like outsourcing your digestion.
That's a great way to put it. You are leveraging beneficial microbes like bacteria or yeast to transform the plant compounds before they ever reach your mouth.
So how does that work in a lab?
In a controlled setting, these microbes are introduced to the raw plant material. And as they feed, they break down tough plant cell walls and complex carbohydrate structures.
So they are essentially pre-chewing the chemical structures for you.
They are metabolizing them, yes. And in doing so, they often create secondary metabolites. The microbes can actually convert certain dormant compounds into highly active antioxidants.
Neat, really? They make it better.
Often, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes the supplement significantly easier for your gut to tolerate, which is huge for people who experience bloating from raw greens. Plus, the organic acids produced during fermentation act as natural preservatives.
Oh, so it helps with shelf life too. Okay, so we have these incredibly efficient delivery systems. We've got armored cars and pre-chewing microbes pulling every ounce of nutrition out of these organic plants and dropping it directly into your bloodstream.
Right.
But, and here's the scary part, if the extraction and delivery are that efficient, what happens if the soil or the plant was contaminated to begin with? I mean, that armored car might accidentally be delivering toxins straight to your blood.
And this is where we have to confront the myth of invincibility surrounding the organic label. The source material is very adamant about this harsh truth. An organic label does not in any way guarantee the absence of all contaminants.
Wait a minute, I'm going to push back on this on behalf of the listener. I am paying a heavy premium for a certified organic greens powder. Are you telling me there could still be lead or arsenic in there?
Well, unfortunately, yes.
But if the USDA or the EU organic standards completely ban synthetic pesticides and heavy metals, how does a supposedly organic leaf of spinach end up toxic? That feels like a massive failure of the certification system.
I get why it feels that way, but it isn't a failure of the system, it's a limitation of reality. We live in a shared, interconnected environment. Organic certifications govern the inputs and the intentional farming practices.
Right, like what the farmer actively does.
Exactly. A farmer cannot intentionally spray a synthetic pesticide, but they cannot put a giant glass dome over their farm.
Oh, I see. Environmental runoff.
Environmental runoff, wind drift, and historical soil contamination. Heavy metals like lead, cadmium, and arsenic naturally occur in the Earth's crust, but their levels have been artificially elevated globally due to decades of industrial pollution.
Right, like leaded gasoline and old pesticide.
Exactly. These metals just sit in the soil. And a plant doesn't know the difference between an organic farm and a conventional farm. It acts like a sponge, drawing water and minerals up through its roots.
Wow.
So if there's cadmium in the groundwater, the organic spinach will absorb the cadmium.
That is a terrifying image, the plant acting like a sponge. And it isn't just what's in the soil, right? The guide mentions pesticide drift, too.
Yeah, a perfectly managed organic farm might be situated a few miles downwind from a massive conventional farm. When that conventional farm sprays pesticides, the wind or the rain can carry trace residues onto the organic crops.
That is so frustrating.
And then there's a third, highly concerning category of contaminants, mycotoxins.
What are mycotoxins?
They are toxic compounds produced by certain types of fungi or molds. And this is entirely an issue of processing and storage.
So even after it leaves the farm?
Right. Even if a crop is grown flawlessly under organic conditions, if it is harvested and stored in a facility where the moisture content isn't perfectly controlled, mold can grow. And that mold produces mycotoxins, which are incredibly resilient. They can easily survive the extraction process to end up in your powder.
Okay, so a consumer literally cannot just blindly trust the organic leaf logo. The organic certification covers the farming practices and traceability, but it is really only one half of the safety equation.
Exactly.
So how is a consumer supposed to protect themselves? How do we, actually verify what's inside that bottle?
Well, the other half of the safety equation is rigorous independent lab testing. Consumers have to look for third-party certifications that validate the finished product.
What kind of certifications?
The guide highlights several key programs. You have NSAA NSI 173, which is a standard specifically developed for dietary supplement safety. There is USP Verified, which evaluates both efficacy and quality, and programs like the Clean Label Project.
But how do these third parties actually test the products? Are they just taking the manufacturer's word for it? Like, sure, we tested it, trust us.
Not at all.
Yeah.
That is the whole value of a true third-party certification. Organizations like NSF or USP conduct independent facility audits, meaning they physically inspect the manufacturing plants.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Furthermore, they take random samples of the finished product directly from store shelves or warehouses and run them through their own independent mass spectrometry labs.
So they are actively screening for this stuff.
They're screening for hundreds of potential contaminants, heavy metals, microbes, pesticide residues, to ensure the product meets strict safety thresholds before they allow their seal on the bottle.
That provides a huge layer of trust. But the absolute holy grail mentioned in the source material, like the ultimate document you want to look for if you want total transparency, is the COA, the Certificate of Analysis.
Yes, the Certificate of Analysis is the definitive laboratory document for any dietary supplement.
What exactly does it show?
It is a batch-specific report detailing the exact laboratory results for identity, purity, potency, and contaminants. It scientifically proves two things. First, that the ingredients listed on the label are actually present in the correct amounts.
Okay.
And second, that contaminants like heavy metals, pathogenic bacteria, and mycotoxins are either completely absent or well below safe regulatory limits.
Okay, let's make this highly actionable for you, the listener.
Huh?
Imagine you are holding a bottle of an organic polyphenol blend right now, or you're looking at a brand's website. If you don't have a chemistry degree, how do you actually use a COA? Let's walk through a checklist. I assume step 1 is still checking for that organic baseline.
Yes. Verify the organic certification status first. That ensures no synthetic pesticides or GMOs were used intentionally during farming.
Makes sense.
Once you've confirmed that, you need to locate the batch or lot number printed on the physical bottle in your hand, which is usually near the expiration date.
Got it. I see the lot number. Now what?
You go to the company's website, or you email their customer service, and you request the certificate of analysis specifically for that exact lot number.
Wait, they might try to give you an old one.
Exactly. Do not accept a generalized COA from a batch tested 3 years ago. You want the document that matches the exact powder you are about to ingest.
And when I get that document, I am literally just comparing the lot number and the expiry date on my bottle to the lot number and expiry date typed on the lab report. That connects the paper trail.
Right.
But what about the actual ingredient label on the bottle? Like, how do I spot hidden fillers?
You need to evaluate the ingredient list by actively separating the active ingredients from the inactive ones. Manufacturers will often add synthetic binding agents, flow agents, or artificial flavors to mask a bitter taste.
Which you want to avoid.
Right. Look for clear sourcing narratives.
Yeah.
You want to heavily scrutinize products that rely on a proprietary blend.
Oh, man. I see proprietary blends all the time. It'll say, like, superfood green matrix, and then list 20 different vegetables, but it only gives one total weight for the whole blend, like 1,000 milligrams.
Which is a massive red flag.
Why?
When a brand uses a proprietary blend, they are not disclosing the exact amount of each individual ingredient. This allows for a practice known in the industry as fairy dusting.
Fairy dusting.
Yeah. They might include 990 milligrams of cheap apple powder and only a microscopic, physiologically useless fraction of a milligram of the expensive kale or spirulina extracts, just so they could legally put it on the label.
That is incredibly deceptive. You think you're getting this massive dose of superfoods, but you're really just getting expensive apple dust.
It highlights why examining the serving sizes and dosing guidance is so crucial, especially for polyphenol blends where clinical absorption rates matter. If they won't tell you the dose, you simply cannot evaluate the efficacy.
There is one more critical step on this checklist, and it relates to interacting with prescription medications. I think a lot of people just assume that because a supplement is made from organic fruits and vegetables, it is inherently harmless. Like, it's just food, right?
There's a very dangerous assumption.
Yeah.
These are not whole foods. They are highly concentrated, extracted plant compounds.
Right, we took out the water and the fiber.
Exactly. When you strip all that away, you are left with potent bioactive chemicals. These compounds can absolutely interact with prescription medications, alter how your liver metabolizes drugs, or exacerbate chronic health conditions.
So you really need to be careful.
You must consult a healthcare professional, like a doctor or a registered dietitian, before introducing concentrated supplements into your routine.
What I love about all of this is that the power sits entirely with you, the consumer. When you email a company and ask to see the COA for batch number 12345 and they dodge the question, give you a vague answer, or refuse to share it, you instantly know to walk away.
Transparency is the ultimate hallmark of a safe brand. Companies with rigorous safety standards and nothing to hide will proudly make those lab results publicly accessible.
Yeah, they want you to see them.
Right. This checklist shifts your purchasing decisions away from colorful packaging and bold marketing claims and anchors them entirely in verifiable data.
All right, let's recap what we've uncovered today. We started out on the organic farm, establishing that while the organic standards are incredible for minimizing intentional synthetics, they don't put a magic dome over the crops.
Right. Environmental runoff, heavy metals, and post-harvest mycotoxins are real threats.
Exactly. Then we explored the mechanics of extraction. We saw how freeze drying uses sublimation to protect heat label vitamins, while spray drying uses atomization to create stable powders.
And we discuss advanced technologies like liposomal delivery and fermentation, solving that bioavailability hurdle.
Yes, armored cars and pre-chewing microbes. And then you armed us with the detective's toolkit. Check the lot numbers, demand a current certificate of analysis, look for third-party testing, and avoid the deceptive trap of fairy dusting.
But the foundational takeaway remains unchanged. Organic fruit and vegetable supplements are highly effective bridges for nutritional gaps. But a colorful, varied whole food diet must remain the absolute foundation of your health.
The solo instrument never replaces the symphony. I love that. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over something to explore on your own that builds on this idea of bioavailability.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we discussed how laboratory fermentation uses beneficial microbes to break down cell walls and fundamentally unlock a plant's nutrients before it ever goes into a capsule. It pre-chews the matrix, right?
Right.
So what does that mean for the billions of unique living microbes already inside your own gut right now when you eat a raw whole vegetable?
Oh, that is a profound consideration.
Yeah.
It implies that the nutritional value of a food isn't just a fixed number printed on a label.
Exactly. How much of the nutrition you actually get from your food isn't just about what you chew, it's actively being decided by the microscopic ecosystem you are hosting. It means your relationship with your food is deeply biologically collaborative.
That's a great perspective to end on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay insanely curious, keep reading those labels, demand your COAs, and keep asking great questions. Catch you next time.